I'm going to acknowledge the country that we're on. We're on the traditional land of the Wawurrung. I'm so practiced. Wawurrung, it's got like 2 R's. Wawurrung. John? Thank you, apologies. We pay our respects to the traditional owners, past, present and emerging. Some safety stuff. Plans have changed a little bit. We're not able to hassle people anymore, but we are still going to be respectful to everybody who comes and goes. Everybody that comes in here is going to work. Some are working for the wrong mob, but we're after a just transition. We don't want people to lose their jobs over this. We respect the people that are coming here to do yoga and meditation, and the police, of course. Thank you very much. We've got Gail and Matt who are wearing high vis, and if they're not, they're going to be. And they are just marshals to keep us safe and a bit under control. We've also got John. John is here, and John is our police liaison. Go to those guys if you've got any issues. So look out for each other in dealing with any unknowns, but I don't think today's going to be an issue at all. It's got a great friendly feel and everybody's being cooperative. We don't plan on any arrests today. Why are we here? We're here to tell the truth. We want the media to know, we want Australia to know about the great lie behind carbon capture and storage when it comes to fossil fuels. It's a dangerous distraction that we don't have time for. We need to be focusing our energy and our money towards proven solutions such as carbon capture through trees or through renewable energy. And we need to get the word out. There's not many of us. So we just have to do our best to get the word out to the media and the Australian people of the lies behind carbon capture and storage. One thing I bang on about heaps is down there in the Otway Basin where CO2 CRC, which are the mob having their AGM and symposium here today, they've got a pilot site there that has sunk some carbon down into the ground. They've been going for well over a decade and they've had a heap of money poured in. What they're allowing is not so as we can, well, they are allowing us, they're piloting so as we can burn more gas and increase and double the use of our gas out of the Otway Basin. But what that technology down there is allowing them to do is actually tap into reserves that were previously too high in CO2 and were deemed unsuitable. So if that isn't greenwashing, I don't know what is. And to boot, they're going to get paid carbon credits for doing that. So this sort of thing is going on. I believe at the Moomba facility, they're simply going to be using the CO2 so as they can extract more gas and oil out of the reserves. They pump it down, it keeps pressure, and they can get the dregs out. And they're going to get carbon credits for getting more fuel out, which they're going to burn and create more carbon. What they're doing is not addressing the methane, which we all know methane is up to 30 times more potent for global warming over a 20-year period, and it's over the next 10 years that we need to dramatically decrease our use of methane. 90 nations across the planet have promised to reduce their methane by 30%, and what are we doing? We're greenwashing. We're throwing public money, taxes, at sinking carbon and not even touching the methane issue. Anyway, you get angry. I've got cheat sheets which Sylvia is going to hand out to anybody if you want to just know a bit more about carbon capture. And also on the back of those cheat sheets are some songs. Now I thought if we were sort of on the steps we might have got to sing a few songs. I'm not so sure it's going to be so suitable for us here by the road. But again, thank you very much for coming. It means a lot to Ocean, it means a lot to all the other groups that are here today. I'm going to introduce Nicola, Nicola is one of our teachers in Apollo Bay, and she's also a member of Ocean, and she's just going to have a word with everybody.
I'll be honest with you, today was my last chance to have a day off at home without children until February next year, and I was really torn because I really would like a day off before summer holidays, but I thought I don't have the time to have a day off when things like this are happening every day.
Thank you for coming.
So I've given up my time because of the continual failure of governments to take climate change seriously. Almost all other countries in the world seem to get it, that there is a crisis and are responding more like you'd expect, although not as much as is needed. But Australia is priding itself on its stroll out of pathetic policies and targets that go almost nowhere in regards to addressing this crisis. Carbon capture and storage and carbon capture use and storage are being heralded as amazing technologies that will miraculously save our planet from the catastrophic warming scientists are pleading with us about, the code red for humanity. Morrison might believe in miracles, but I don't. In simple terms, carbon capture and storage and carbon capture use and storage is the idea that carbon dioxide can be removed from the atmosphere or at the point of production and pushed deep into the ground and stored there forever. It requires geologically and politically stable conditions, as security and monitoring for cracks must also be taken care of forever. Should the carbon sequestered underground be released all at once, it would be catastrophic. How many countries can you name that have been politically and geologically stable for thousands of years? This is fairies at the bottom of the garden-style delusions. Carbon capture and storage, use and storage, slightly different from CCS, is not new technology. It has been trialled and used for decades as ways of accessing the last parts of gas and oil deposits that would otherwise be too hard to extract.
Thank you.
Instead, the fossil fuel companies capture the carbon dioxide, force it into the ground and push up remaining deposits to use as normal. This negates any emission reductions that may otherwise have come from sequestering the carbon dioxide on the ground in the first place. And the even more outrageous part, like Lisa mentioned, is the fossil fuel companies will be paid to do this. It is yet another lie we are being told by our government, by which all accounts is a puppet of the fossil fuel companies. Some of the people inside this building today may feel like they're working towards a good outcome. What they don't realise is how pervasive the powers of the fossil fuel companies are in Australia, and that they may inadvertently be adding fuel to the fire that has been burning for too long. Governments need to be honest with people. They need to tell us that by not reducing emissions, surfers' special heart places won't be handed to their children. Toddlers will be having fewer beaches to make sandcastles on. People who live surrounded by bush will have no insurance to rely on should a bushfire burn down their home. Fishers will have no fish. The local timber industries will run high risks of crop damage. Farmers will have to weigh up risks with regards to crop planting, and the Great Ocean Road will no longer be a viable tourist attraction, with parts of it destroyed by rising oceans. Morrison is right. He doesn't hold a hose. He is instead holding a torch to everything we hold dear about this country. Data shows that so far almost $4 billion of taxpayer money has been spent developing the technology, and after decades it is still not operating at an industry scale. In fact, worldwide, more than 80% of CCS projects either failed to launch or failed after launch. To put it bluntly, CCS is a failed technology that the government is using to delay the inevitable shutdown of our fossil fuel industries. It will never be a zero-emission solution, especially when it's attached to polluting coal and gas projects. Technologies such as wind and solar and storage will go a much greater way to arresting the Earth's trajectory towards 2 or even 3 degrees plus of warming. 2 and 3 sound like such small numbers that there should be nothing to worry about, but they're not to be confused with daily weather reports that may change from 25 to 28 without much discomfort or disruption. Should our entire planet warm to over 2 degrees, the discomfort and disruption will be catastrophic, and Morrison's Australian way will become one of biblical proportions. Droughts will be frequent, bushfire seasons lengthen and burn twice as much area as they currently do. And please remember Black Summer when you think of that. Oceans will acidify to the point of unlivability for marine creatures and therefore industries. Coral reefs will exist only in history books, as will significant percentages of insects, birds and mammals. Humans don't escape either. Deaths from heat-related illnesses will be in the millions every year. The frequency of tropical diseases and other zoonotic illnesses such as COVID will rise greatly due to favourable temperatures for them to grow in. At 3 degrees of warming, significant parts of the world will be unlivable, either due to a rising ocean level of well over 10 centimetres or because temperatures in summer regularly reach 50 degrees, creating unfathomable numbers of climate refugees. There will also be massive increases in other extreme weather events such as rain bombs, which Canada had last week, known as atmospheric rivers, recording over 200 mil of rain in 2 days. In a 2 or 3 degree warmed world, food security will be a major concern due to unpredictable weather patterns. Hungry people are angry and irrational people. Countries who lose their low-lying lands and the ability to feed people will be looking for other places to escape to. Australia is the world's worst performing nation in regards to climate action. We have a moral responsibility not only to act properly now, but also in the future. We have the moral responsibility to welcome people who we did nothing to save when we could have. Life as we know it today will no longer exist. The future you hope for yourself or your children or your grandchildren will not exist. We will look back on today and wonder what we could possibly have been thinking to not do everything we could to throw everything possible at minimising climate change. Those who are yet to come will look at us with a grief we cannot possibly imagine and ask us why. Why did you continue to burn the very stuff that has stolen our future when you knew it would do so? Why did these fossil fuel companies have so much power over governments even though we knew it was happening? Why did our governments think it was acceptable to lie? Resources Minister Angus Taylor recently referred to gas as the silver bullet for emissions reduction. I say to him, mate, if you think gas is a silver bullet, then it is one in a gun held directly at the hearts of future generations. Nature always bats last. It is up to us deciding how big a swing we give her.
Thank you, Nicola. A bit bleak, but thank you. It is what we're looking at if we don't do something about this. Sean Doherty from Surf Riders, he'll just have a word with everybody now, basically telling us more about carbon capture and storage. Thank you, Sean. He's going to wing it.
You're going to wing it. Morning. Thanks all. I want to thank everyone who's come down the road from Melbourne and up the coast. Glad we turned on a nice day for you here in Torquay. I've come from a couple of blocks up the road, but probably like all of you, I've been watching what's going on down the coast here with very keen interest. The supercharging of the gas industry around Port Campbell, fairly close to home, and a fairly good idea of just how brazen the gas industry is becoming in this country. A bunch of us have been on this for a while now. We started off down in the Bight with the oil fields, but we're just watching what's happening now and kind of disbelief, really, that it's so brazen they can just pull up off the 12 apostles and go, well, that's it, boys, let's grab the drills out. But we're watching it all around the country. It's not just here. Like, we're currently in a battle off the coast between Sydney and Newcastle. They've even landed there, and they're looking to drill wells there. But then you go, it's everywhere. Like, you just look straight out of here, down King Island, probably 7 or 80 k's away. Both sides of King Island are currently being seismic blasted. And then just do a lap of the country, and it's everywhere. Like, you'll Beetaloo up in the Northern Territory, off Ningaloo, the Bonaparte Gulf. It's, nothing's off limits for these guys at the moment. And then you look at what happened in Glasgow last week, and you get a sense, go, right, this is what's happening in the world right now. How the fuck is this happening here in Australia? And then you go, well, you look inside what's happening here today and go, well, there's your answer. This is what it is. So a bit of context here. Okay, so this is how we've landed where we are. So oil and gas have literally pulled trillions of dollars out of the earth over the course of 100 years or so. They've become phenomenally powerful, phenomenally rich. They've been able to influence politics. They've been able to get us into the situation we are now where it's almost impossible to get rid of them. But there's one reason for that, and the reason is, for that whole time, it's been free for them to pollute. They've literally been able to use the sky as an open sewer and just pump out carbon into the atmosphere over 100 years and with no reckoning. It doesn't appear on a balance sheet. It's just allowed them to become richer and richer and just dig their claws in more tightly to it. But there was always going to come a moment like this, and this is it right now. This is the reckoning right now. Suddenly people realise it's not free to pollute anymore. There's a consequence to it. We're seeing it. You know, we saw it back in 2019. We've seen it all around, you know, the country here. We're seeing it all around the world. And so what's their reaction going to be to it? You know, this, and it's been, psychologically, it's been interesting to see human nature work here. Because if they weren't killing the planet in the process of doing this, you'd have to actually admire them for the balls they've got to try and pull this plan off. The plan literally is, we'll get paid to take carbon out of the ground, and we'll also get paid to put it back in. It's masterful. It really is, you know, if it wasn't fucking killing the planet. Excuse the French. But it is, it's just crazy. It literally is. But it's, hang on. I had another good point here. Okay. I've got the, actually where that bill lands. And as we've just noted, who's going to pay them to actually put this stuff back in the ground? Because the market's not going to pay them, clearly. You know, with the cost of carbon capture, as you've seen anywhere in the world, no one's going to touch it because it's phenomenally expensive. It doesn't work, but it's phenomenally expensive. And the renewable clean energies now are at a point where they're just grass cutting all of that. So there's no incentive for these guys to actually want to not pollute and put it back in the ground. So they need some help. The market's not going to do it. So where's that bill going to land? It's going to land with us, Johnny taxpayer. As you know, I think Lisa said, it's currently $4 billion, I think, here in Australia. And the numbers just getting thrown around at the moment are just eye-watering. You know, what these guys, this is what these guys are here for right now, to tap into that. So this is the new business model for the gas industry. They know the clock's ticking. They want to get wells in the ground, but they also want to get this other scam going and actually double dip, you know, and keep. It is a feeding frenzy, Lisa. It is indeed, and it's just a scam. It really is. And you look at, okay, anyone want to take a stab at currently what percentage of carbon goes back into the ground through carbon capture of all the carbon that's emitted globally every year? Anyone want to throw a number? 2%. Lower. 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 0.1. 0.1% currently goes back into the ground because there's been no incentive for these guys to do it. They've just been free to pollute and pump it into the air. So, you know, but it's also, they've been at this technology for years now, and it's got nowhere. It really has. The double part of the scam also, when you look at it, is, so these guys are going to, it's a bit part of the business plan, but it's also marketing for these guys, right? Currently, at the moment, globally, about 40% of emissions annually come from oil and gas. Now, of that 40%, a quarter come from the production of it, the extraction and the production of it. 3/4 of those emissions come from burning it when we put it in the car and it gets burnt. Carbon capture and storage doesn't apply to that 3/4. It only applies to getting it out of the ground. It's only the bit they can control at the site. And even then, it doesn't work. So it's... Thanks, mate. So none of this is serious emissions reduction. It's not actually going to do anything, and it's not working currently. It's not likely to work, and all it's doing is perpetuating this madness. It's just going to keep rolling on. We're going to, you know, Bindy's going to paddle out down the coast and look at oil rigs, and you don't want to piss Bindy off, I'll tell you right now. but it's happening all around the country, and this is the next step. This is the end game for these guys. This is what's happening right now, and it's just not on, because it's like, we know where it's going to lead. It's going to it's just going to create havoc, for generations ahead. And hats off to all of you for coming down and standing up for this and recognising it for what it is. It's bullshit. It's nothing more, nothing less. That's exactly what it is. Just from Surf Riders' perspective, we're going to take this on and keep it going. Like, we're currently involved in, as I said, in a fight off Sydney for a PEP 11. They want to turn Sydney into a gas field, would you believe? There's no offshore gas off the east coast. They want to drop one just north of Sydney. And of course, what we're seeing down here, the 12 Apostles, if they're drilling off the 12 Apostles, what's sacred anymore? But thanks again for your attendance. It's a small group, but I reckon that, everyone driving past here is giving you an indication of the actual traction this is getting. And I think there's probably a few more of us than you reckon. So congratulations. Thanks for coming down. Am I it?
I was going to wrap it up at that, unless somebody else has got something else they'd like to say. But we might do some chants later, but it's an opportunity for you to holler at a few cars. Maybe we can use the pedestrian crossing. We might do some chants later. Thank you again very much, everybody, and thank you, Sean. That was also very depressing. Thank you, Sean. Extra signs here if anybody's lacking a sign. If you haven't got one for both hands, you haven't got enough. Thank you.
Where do you want to do it?
Artillery, by the way. I emailed you.
No.
Yeah, anyway. No, I'm running to the Greens if you want to do it. No, we went in. I know, well, that's actually affiliated, but we're already talking about that sort of thing. So definitely the same thing. Yeah, definitely. We should really have our basket. If there's a passenger, we can perhaps give it to them.
We're just going to speak to one of the key speakers, Nicola, and then we will see what happens later during the day.
You're getting the sign in shot.
Because I think that, even if it's just, I don't think there'll be much happening.
So most of the people here.
Yeah, you're going to get over here.
So I look that way? Okay.
Okay, Nicola, I just want to let the people know, of the viewers, that what actually you're doing here today.
Sure, we're protesting to bring awareness to the big Australian lie that is carbon capture and storage, which current federal government is spruiking as a huge way of trying to tackle climate change, which when you look at the realities of carbon capture and storage, it's way less than 1% of carbon that's put out into the atmosphere is actually workingly stored underground.
Okay, cool. And with RECV, what's actually happening here?
Right, there's an AGM of, it's a local group that's looking into doing carbon capture and storage, CCO2, having that AGM and a symposium with a whole lot of other fossil fuel and academics and members of parliament coming here today to just talk about pretty much how they can double dip into the barrel of government funding with being paid to put carbon under the ground, but at the same time making money out of the fossil fuels that they then get out of the ground by putting the carbon into the ground.
Do you know any of the MPs that are in there today?
I don't know the names of the MPs. They wouldn't release the list of who was attending, so yeah, they're pretty secretive about these things.
Were you expecting a large police presence?
We weren't actually. We didn't know. Obviously, they've got wind of it somehow. As we've had a protest recently on the seismic testing boat that was in Geelong, I think they're starting to realise that there are a lot of people who are feeling angry and who are feeling scared of the future for their children and themselves. And I think they're starting to realise they need to be at these types of events.
Okay, cool. Do you know how many are actually approximately here supporting the cause?
I didn't count the numbers. I'm going to say about 35, 40 people came today from all over the place, Melbourne, Ballarat, Apollo Bay, people, even locals from Torquay. So it's a pretty good effort on a Monday at a fairly last minute notice.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the end message is, what exactly the end message you're trying to, especially our new generation coming, if you had a message to them, what would that be?
The message is the government is lying to you if they tell you they are looking after your future with carbon capture and storage. It's a technology that's useful, but there are other proven technologies like renewables and storage that are going to go far bigger into reducing the emissions, and we have to reduce them. Like, the world is moving on, Australia is being left behind, and don't listen to them when they say carbon capture and storage is going to save the day. It is just a front for them to continue their fossil fuel usage when they really need to be stopping our usage as quickly as they can if we're going to stop climate change being a huge issue for the planet.
Yeah. And what happens if we don't stop it at this point in time?
If we don't start stopping our fossil fuel usage, we are heading towards a 2 or potentially, the last report said 2.7 degree warmed world. You cannot imagine what that planet is going to be like. And bushfires, droughts, extreme weather all the time, food shortages, unrest, climate refugees. It's just going to be something out of a horror movie.
Thank you very much, Nicola.
You're welcome, thanks.
How long are you going to be here for?
What do we want? Climate action! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate action! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate action! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate action! When do we want it? Now! No new gas! No new gas! No new gas! No new gas! What do we want? Climate action! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate action! When do we want it? Now! No new gas! No new gas! No CCS! No CCS! Yeah! Woo!
I've got one more for you. That's pretty cool. Another ScoMo porky pie. Climate capture is alive.
Another ScoMo porky pie.
Climate action is alive. Another. Cut.
I mention your life?
What is it?
What?
Did I mention your life?